All right, everyone, welcome. We're diving deep today, getting you prepped for a fleet commander interview,
Not just any interview prep, we're going to give you the edge you need to really stand out.
using, of course, the awesome resources on RoleCatcher, right?
Absolutely. We'll unpack what this demanding but rewarding career really entails.
It's more than just a cool title, right?
Mm-hmm.
Being a fleet commander means you're the one making sure those naval vessels are ready to deploy. You're on top of all those critical regulations, the training, those complex operations. It's a lot.
Think leadership under pressure, long hours, high stakes, but also huge strategic impact. And that's what those interviews are looking for.
Okay, so let's dive into some questions. RoleCatcher starts with this one. Can you tell us about your experience in managing fleet operations? Sounds simple enough, but what are they really getting at?
It's about going beyond just listing off what's on your resume. They want to see that leadership, that ability to handle the unique complexities of fleet operations.
So don't just say you did it, show them how you did it.
Exactly. Think about the STAR method situation. Task, action, result. Remember a specific complex operation you managed well.
Like overseeing a massive maintenance project with a tight deadline.
Perfect example. Describe the situation, what your role was, the actions you took, and the positive results. Show them you can handle the pressure.
And don't forget to use those industry keywords. Managing budgets, strategic planning, compliance. Those are music to an interviewer's ears.
Absolutely. Shows you speak their language. Now, be ready for the follow-up. What were some challenges you faced in that role, and how did you overcome them?
Adaptability and problem solving are key here. Okay, hit me with the next question.
How do you ensure the safety of drivers and vehicles in your fleet? This one's about more than just knowing the safety regs. It's about being proactive, managing risks.
So how do you show that?
Think of a time you implemented a new safety protocol, maybe a system for reporting hazards, but make it specific to shipboard environments, what they deal with.
Right. This is where those keywords from the RoleCatcher Career Guide come in. Ensuring compliance with policies, maintaining a safe ship environment. And RoleCatcher's AI can help you find those keywords for this specific job.
Like having a secret weapon tailoring your resume. Okay, a follow-up question here could be, tell us about a time you had to address a safety violation. How did you handle it?
Conflict resolution, another must-have for a leader. This is good stuff. What's next?
All right, how about this? How do you prioritize and manage competing demands in fleet operations? Because it's a constant juggling act, right?
Definitely. So your answer needs to scream strategic thinking, decision-making under pressure.
Give them a real-life scenario, like having to choose between a critical maintenance project and prepping for a deployment. Walk them through your process.
Did you gather all the info? What factors did you weigh? Show them you can make those tough calls for the good of the whole fleet.
Precisely. And even if you haven't held a strictly naval role, relevant experience from other fields is valuable. RoleCatcher's interview practice can help you there.
Oh yeah, I love that feature. It's like a personalized coach giving you feedback on your answers, specific to this role.
Exactly. Makes a huge difference.
Incredible. Okay, ready for the next curveball.
Okay, try this one on for size. Can you describe a time when you had to deal with a difficult driver or customer complaint in fleet operations? Might seem a bit off, right?
Yeah, not exactly talking about truck drivers here.
It's really about those core interpersonal skills, how you manage people, resolve conflict, think about a challenging situation you faced, but adapt it.
So instead of a driver, maybe it was a crew member who was consistently late, impacting everyone else.
Exactly. Or maybe a critical supply shipment was delayed, causing a major headache. Focus on how you handled it.
Staying calm, professional, finding a solution that worked for everyone involved.
Exactly. And remember to highlight those active listening skills, empathy, while still holding firm to those high standards. They might even ask, how do you maintain morale during those tough, long deployments?
Ooh, that's a good one. Gets to the heart of leadership under pressure. What would you say to that?
Think about what you've done to boost morale, creative ways to keep everyone connected to loved ones back home, building camaraderie on board, those kinds of things.
It's about being resourceful, understanding the unique challenges of naval life. Which reminds me of this next question RoleCatcher mentions. How do you stay up to date on industry trends and regulations in fleet management?
They want to see that you're committed to continuous learning, that you're proactive, because the naval world is always changing.
So it's not enough to just rest on your laurels.
Right. Do you go to industry conferences, stay on top of the latest maritime regulations, maybe even mention a specific trend that's caught your eye?
Like the rise of unmanned vessels, that's a big one.
Yeah.
How does that change fleet operations?
Perfect example. And RoleCatcher's industry trends section is a goldmine for that kind of stuff.
Love that section. It's so helpful. Okay, back to the questions. This one's interesting. How do you manage and motivate a team of drivers and maintenance personnel? Again, it's about those transferable skills, right?
Exactly. Leadership is leadership, whether it's a ship's crew or a ground team. Focus on your style. Are you collaborative, results-oriented? Prove it with an example.
Like maybe you implemented a new training program that boosted morale and streamlined maintenance.
Love it. Now be ready to flip the script. What about a time you had to deal with underperformance? Show them you can give constructive feedback and take action when needed.
That balance of empathy and firmness, crucial. All right, let's talk compliance. RoleCatcher highlights this question. How do you ensure compliance with DOT regulations in fleet operations?
This one's about that meticulous attention to detail, making sure you meet the highest safety and regulatory standards.
Because a fleet commander's decisions have huge consequences.
Exactly. Don't just say you follow the rules. Explain why those regulations matter. Maybe talk about maritime environmental regs and how you handled waste disposal during a deployment.
Showing them you get the bigger picture.
Right. And be ready to share a specific instance where you had to address a potential compliance issue, how you handled it, what the outcome was.
Always good to have those concrete examples ready.
Oh,
Now, before we move on, I'm curious about the financial side. Surely that comes up, right?
you bet. Be prepared for something like, how do you manage the financial performance of fleet operations? They want to see that financial savvy.
Managing budgets, optimizing resources,
Yeah.
that's a heavy responsibility. What kind of examples would really land?
Think about those tough budget calls you've had to make. Maybe you prioritize repairs on one vessel over another due to limited funds.
Or maybe you had to make a case for additional funding to support a critical upgrade. That takes strategic thinking and strong communication.
Exactly. Show them you understand the financial impact of your decisions. And be ready for this curveball. How would you handle it if your budget was suddenly cut?
Talk about pressure.
It's all about adaptability. Can you reprioritize, think on your feet, and still achieve your objectives with less? Those are valuable skills.
For sure.
We've covered a lot of individual questions, but let's zoom out for a second. Acing the interview is just one piece of the puzzle, right?
Right. What does a typical career path look like for someone who wants to become a fleet commander?
RoleCatcher's career stages section is super useful for that. It outlines that journey from entry-level roles like junior officer all the way up through the ranks.
So, a clear path for advancement, but it takes time.
Absolutely. You gradually take on more responsibility overseeing maintenance for a few vessels, then leading larger teams and so on.
Until you're eventually commanding entire fleets. What an incredible journey. But it's not just about putting in the years, right? What else can someone do to stand out and move up in their career?
Continuous learning is huge. New tech, new strategies, the geopolitical landscape, it's all constantly evolving. You have to stay ahead of the curve.
RoleCatcher talks about advanced training, professional development courses.
Those are great. And don't underestimate the power of networking conferences, connecting with other officers.
Building those relationships is so important.
A fleet commander isn't just a technical expert, they're a leader. Someone who can adapt, learn, and build those strong relationships.
It's about reaching that top level, but then also really excelling once you're there, right?
Exactly. And that means always be learning, always pushing yourself.
Couldn't agree more. Now, before we wrap up, one last thought-provoking question for our listeners. RoleCatcher's industry trends section, it talks about cybersecurity.
Oh, yeah, that's huge now.
How do you even begin to tackle those risks as a fleet commander?
Yeah.
Cyber attacks, system vulnerabilities, it's a whole other world.
It's a critical question, and it shows how the role itself is changing, evolving. You're not just dealing with physical threats anymore, protecting sensitive data, making sure those critical systems are operational. It's a whole new ballgame.
It's a lot to handle on top of everything else.
Definitely adds a layer of complexity. You need that deep understanding of the technology. You have to be strategic, proactive. It's not just about reacting after an attack. It's about preventing them in the first place.
That's why I think resources like RoleCatcher are so essential. They give you that inside track, those tools you need, not just to nail the interview, but to actually thrive in a career like this.
I completely agree.
Well, on that note, to all their listeners out there, we hope this deep dive has been helpful, giving you some confidence.
Remember, preparation is key.
Exactly. Dive into those RoleCatcher career guides, practice your answers, and really showcase that you're ready to lead.
The world of naval operations is always changing. Be ready for it.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone, and until next time, Keep exploring, keep learning.